I always knew my dad had a first family. It was one of those quiet family secrets. The kind people never talked about at dinner, but you just knew it was there. Like a locked room in a house you weren't allowed to open. My mum once told me, when I was little, that before he met her, he had a wife and a daughter. It didn't work out, she said, and that was that. No photos, no names, no details. Just a vague shadow of a life that came before mine. I never asked questions. Honestly, I didn't care much growing up. I had a good life. 2 parents, a roof over my head, and a best friend who was like a sister to me. Her name was Maya. We met in 2nd grade and instantly clicked. She was bold where I was shy, loud where I was quiet. We were inseparable. Birthday parties, sleepovers, vacations, even our first tattoos were together. She was my person. She knew everything about me. Well, almost everything. We're both 23 now, and for the past few weeks, I felt this weird sense of unease in my gut. It started small. Maya texting my boyfriend late at night, saying it was about planning a surprise for me. Her suddenly being distant, then overly affectionate. Jake, my boyfriend, acting different. It felt like something was shifting under my feet, but I couldn't quite figure out what, until 2 nights ago. I was helping my dad clean out the garage when I came across an old shoebox taped shut and buried behind some paint cans. I wouldn't have opened it if he hadn't been distracted with the leaf blower, but curiosity got the best of me. Inside were old photographs, letters, and a birth certificate. I froze. There, in smudged black ink, under father's name, was my dad's signature, and under child's name, Maya Elise. I must have stared at it for 10 minutes before I could even breathe. My best friend, the girl I've shared my whole life with, the girl I've cried to about my parents, the girl I trusted more than anyone. She's my sister, and she's been sleeping with my boyfriend, but I wasn't ready for what came next. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling like it might somehow rearrange itself into answers. My mind wouldn't stop spiraling. Every sleepover, every shared birthday party, every tear-filled phone call suddenly felt like a lie. A rehearsed performance. And worst of all, I didn't even know if she knew. Was this some cruel twist of fate, or had Maya known the whole time? The next morning, I couldn't look at my dad. I kept hearing his voice in my head. All those quiet warnings growing up to be careful who you trust, and not everyone is who they seem. Was that about her? Or was he talking about himself? I needed answers. But I couldn't just barge in and confront anyone, not yet. I needed to be sure. So I started digging. I went back through old photos on my phone, screenshots, everything I had with Maya in it. I noticed small things I'd never questioned before. Like how her birthday was just a few months after my parents got married. Or how my dad always tensed up when Maya came over. Never rude, but never warm either. When we were 13, I remember him once saying, "She's a little too familiar for my taste." I thought it was just about her loud personality. Now I think it was something else entirely. I remembered this one summer when we were around 16. My mum had gotten tipsy during a barbecue and slipped up, saying something like, "Well, it's not like her mum was any better," and then quickly changed the subject. I asked about it later, and she brushed it off, saying she meant a neighbor's mum. I didn't question it, but now, it's like all the puzzle pieces were there the whole time. I just never knew I was holding a puzzle. And Jake, I couldn't even begin to process that part yet, one betrayal at a time. I texted Maya that afternoon, casual, light, asking if she wanted to come over and hang. She said she was busy with work. Then I saw Jake's car parked 2 streets down from her apartment later that night. And that's when the panic really started setting in. Because it wasn't just one betrayal. It was both of them. And deep down, I think part of me already knew. If you had asked me a year ago who I trusted most in the world, I would have said Maya and Jake, no hesitation. Maya had been in my life for so long, it felt like she was part of me. She knew every heartbreak, every family fight, every embarrassing secret I'd whispered under my breath at 2 a.m. We used to joke that we were basically soulmates who were born in the wrong bodies. Two halves of the same brain, same heart. We even talked about raising our kids side by side someday. She was the first person I called when I got into college, when my grandpa died, when Jake proposed moving in together. Jake was the first person who made me feel safe in a relationship. We met in our sophomore year of college. He was calm, stable, and kind. The kind of guy who brought you soup when you were sick and left sticky notes on the mirror that said things like, "You've got this, superstar." After 2 years of dating, we moved in together. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. And Maya? She loved Jake. Or so I thought. She was always teasing him, joking about how lucky I was, how she'd steal him if she could. At the time, it just felt like harmless sarcasm, the kind of thing best friends say when they feel comfortable. But now, those moments feel like knives I didn't know were being sharpened. There was this one night, maybe a year ago, when we all went out drinking and Maya crashed on our couch. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. and hearing whispers from the living room. Jake's voice, Maya laughing. I got up and asked what was going on, and they both brushed it off. He was just showing me some dumb YouTube video, Maya said. Back then I believed her, because why wouldn't I? These were my people, my boyfriend, my best friend, the two people I never thought would hurt me. And now I can't stop wondering how long I've been the punchline to some private joke, how long they've been sneaking around behind my back, how many times I left the room and gave them just enough space to build something disgusting out of my trust. The worst part? I think they were counting on me never connecting the dots. But I'm done being blind. I'm done making excuses for what I'm starting to see. Looking back now, the signs were everywhere. It's honestly humiliating how much I missed, or more truthfully, how much I chose to ignore. Because when you trust people that deeply, your brain does this thing where it smooths over cracks. It tells you, that's nothing. Don't be dramatic, you're just tired. And I listened, but now, every memory feels tainted. Every inside joke between Maya and Jake feels like a warning I didn't catch in time. I remember this one night last fall. We were all watching a movie together, and I got up to go grab popcorn. When I came back into the room, Maya was sitting just a little too close to him. Their legs weren't touching, but they were definitely angled toward each other. That kind of body language you only notice when you're looking for it. Jake jumped when he saw me and scooted over like it was no big deal. I laughed it off. I laughed. God, I feel stupid. And then there were the little things. Maya would make these offhand comments like, if Jake ever messes up, I call dibs. Or, you sure you want to keep him all to yourself? We all joked like that, I thought. It was our humor, dark, sarcastic, exaggerated. But now I wonder if those jokes were really just truths dressed up in laughter, meant to test boundaries. Jake too. He started getting defensive if I mentioned Maya too much. If I asked whether he'd talked to her lately, he'd go quiet or say, "Why are you being so weird about her? She's your best friend." Once, I found a text between them at 1:38 a.m. When I asked about it, Jake rolled his eyes and said, "She was venting. You know she doesn't sleep well. I was just being a good listener." A good listener. He was being a good listener to my best friend in the middle of the night while lying next to me. Another time, Maya borrowed one of Jake's sweatshirts. Not one I didn't care about, no, his favorite hoodie. The one I gave him for our anniversary. I asked where it went, and she joked, "Oops, I might have stolen it. It's just so comfy." And he smiled like it was cute. I told him it made me uncomfortable. He said I was overreacting, controlling even. That word hit hard. I'd never been called that before. And from Jake, it felt like a slap. So I shut up. I stopped bringing it up. I didn't want to be that girlfriend. The jealous one. The clingy one. I told myself I was just insecure, that this is what trust looks like. But the truth is, it wasn't trust. It was denial, served cold and silent, and they were counting on it. The scariest part wasn't the suspicion. It was how fast I talked myself out of it. I'd find something, a weird text, a glance held too long, a comment that landed wrong, and immediately I'd start crafting excuses for them in my head. They'd never do that to me. I'm overthinking. It's just a coincidence. They love me. Because if I let myself believe the alternative, that the two people I trusted most were lying to my face every day, I don't think I could have handled it. There was this night in December. I was feeling low, just overwhelmed with work, and I texted Maya asking if she wanted to come over. She said she couldn't, said she had a migraine and just needed to sleep it off. Totally understandable. I didn't push. But an hour later, I noticed Jake had suddenly gone offline on his phone too. No texts, no notifications, just radio silence. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until the next day, when Maya sent me a picture of the soup she made while sick, and in the background, behind the bowl, was Jake's watch, the brown leather one I got him for our anniversary. The one he never takes off unless he's showering or sleeping. I actually laughed when I saw it. Laughed out loud, like some unhinged person trying to ward off a panic attack. Then I convinced myself that maybe he'd stopped by to check on her. That it was innocent. That he was just being kind. Because that's who Jake was, right? Kind, thoughtful, loyal. God, the word loyal makes me sick now. I even brought it up to Maya in the most casual way I could. I said, "Hey, that soup looked good. Was someone with you?" And she blinked a little too long before saying, "Nope, just me and my heating pad." Why? Why? Because your soup had my boyfriend's watch in the background, Maya. Because I'm not stupid. But I played dumb. Again. I told myself the angle of the photo made it look like his watch. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a gift from someone else. Maybe Jake had left it there weeks ago. Maybe. I didn't need gaslighting. I was doing it to myself. Because believing a lie is easier than shattering your own world. And deep down, I think they both knew that. After that night, something in me cracked. Not completely, not enough to break, but enough that I couldn't pretend things were normal anymore. The warmth I used to feel around Jake started to feel fake, forced, like we were playing roles in a relationship that had quietly ended while I wasn't looking. And with Maya, it was worse. Being around her felt like standing too close to a fire I wasn't allowed to mention. Like I was burning and she was smiling. We still hung out, we still talked. But I noticed the pauses. The way she changed the subject when I brought up Jake. The way she stopped tagging me in things on Instagram like she used to. How her stories became more vague, more filtered, more curated, like she was hiding behind a highlight reel. Jake, on the other hand, started pulling away in ways I couldn't even articulate at the time. He stopped asking how my day was. He started spending more time in the gym, more time with the guys, more time out. He used to call me babe, like it was a reflex. Now it was just my name. Or silence. One night we were lying in bed, and I asked him, flat out, if everything was okay between us. He turned to me and said, "Why wouldn't it be?" That's it. No follow-up, no warmth. Just a sentence designed to shut me up. And I did. I shut up. Because what was I supposed to say? "Hey, I think my best friend might also be my secret half-sister, and she's sleeping with you." I was spiraling. I didn't have proof. Just intuition. A few photos, a dozen coincidences that, on their own, weren't enough. I started questioning myself. Maybe I was going crazy. Maybe I wanted to find something wrong, just to feel in control of something. But then Maya started avoiding me completely. She stopped responding to texts, made excuses, cancelled plans. And Jake got suddenly busy with work. Extra hours, he said. Stuff I can't talk about. He'd come home smelling like cologne I didn't recognize and swear it was from a coworker hugging him goodbye. Every day, I felt further from them. Every night, I felt more alone, even with Jake asleep next to me. And yet I still told myself, this is fine. You're just in a rough patch. But deep down, I knew. I was losing both of them, and neither of them was fighting to keep me. Everything reached a tipping point the night of my birthday. Jake forgot. Or maybe he didn't forget. Maybe he just didn't care. But either way, he didn't text me in the morning, didn't leave a card or a note on the counter, didn't plan anything. He came home late, said something vague about traffic and a long day, and handed me a crumpled takeout bag like it was a peace offering. I waited all day thinking maybe he was planning a surprise. Maya was usually the mastermind behind these things. She always organized something small but thoughtful. But this year, radio silence, no call, no happy birthday post, not even a lazy HBD text. I sat on the couch that night with a slice of grocery store cake I bought myself, staring at my phone like a fool, refreshing messages, waiting, pretending it didn't hurt as much as it did. Then, around 11:30 p.m., I opened Instagram. Maya had posted a story. It was a boomerang. Dim lighting, wine glasses clinking, two hands across a table. One of them wearing a watch I knew by heart, Jake's. I stared at it like my brain couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. I screenshotted it, zoomed in, out, back in again. I told myself it could be anyone. Maybe she was out with someone else. Maybe Jake loaned his watch to a friend. Maybe the timestamp was wrong. But I knew that watch. I knew the way his fingers curled when he held a wine glass. I knew the restaurant. It was the same one Jake and I went to on our anniversary last year. I didn't cry, not right away. I just sat there in this horrible, still silence, the kind that settles on you like a fog, when you realize something you've been avoiding has finally arrived. The thing you feared, the moment you can't take back. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited until Jake came home, 1:17 a.m. He smelled like red wine and expensive cologne, the kind he only wore on special occasions. He kissed my forehead like nothing was wrong. And I just stared at him. I stared so hard I thought he'd see it in my eyes. The truth, the suspicion, the scream that was stuck in my throat. But he didn't flinch. He just walked past me, peeled off his shirt and said, "Rough day, I'm exhausted." I didn't say a word, because I wasn't ready to scream yet. But I was getting close. The next morning, I woke up to find Jake's phone on the nightstand, unlocked. That never happened. He was obsessive about it, always face down, always password protected. But this time, it was just there, like bait, like a test. I stared at it for a long time, heart pounding so loud I could barely think. Every moral bone in my body screamed, "Don't do it." But the voice in my gut, the one that had been quietly screaming for weeks, "Do it," so I did. I opened his messages. Not iMessage, those were clean. I went to Instagram DMs, nothing too obvious, until I saw Maya's name. The thread wasn't long. Most of it had been deleted, but they'd gotten sloppy. A few lines were left behind, enough to confirm what I already knew. Her, last night felt different. Him, yeah, it's getting harder to sneak around. Her, she has no idea, right? Him, no, she's clueless. Clueless. That word burned through me like acid. I dropped the phone so fast it nearly slid off the bed. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. There was something deeper than sadness taking root inside me. Something colder. Like betrayal had frozen every nerve in my body. I scrolled further. There was a saved photo in his camera roll from the night before. A blurry selfie of him and Maya, her head resting on his shoulder. She was wearing my necklace, the tiny gold pendant I thought I lost last month, the one Jake gave me for our second anniversary. That was it. That was the moment the hope officially died. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything, I didn't storm out. I got dressed, quietly, calmly, walked to the bathroom, stared at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in weeks, I saw it. The girl looking back at me wasn't clueless. She wasn't weak, she wasn't crazy. She was done. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew this. They had been careful, they had been smug, they thought I would never see it. But now I had, and I don't think either of them was ready for what came next. I didn't confront them, not yet, because I realized something important that morning. They had been playing chess, and I'd been playing checkers, reacting, defending, doubting myself. But now I had confirmation, and I had silence on my side. So I started digging. The first thing I did was back up Jake's phone. I airdropped every screenshot, every saved photo, every time-stamped message from Maya to a secret folder on my laptop. Then I went through my old texts with Maya. There were so many hints I'd brushed off. Weird deflections, sudden mood shifts, overly intimate jokes about Jake, the kind that only feel harmless until you know the truth. I made a spreadsheet, a literal spreadsheet, dates, times, excuses, every moment they were busy or unavailable at the same time. I even checked Uber receipts. Jake forgot I had access to our shared ride history from when we moved in together. There were nights he said he was working late, where I found rides ending near Maya's building. He never came home smelling like work. It made me sick. I also dug into Maya's background. Something had always bothered me. How little I knew about her family, considering we were sisters in everything but blood. She never talked about her dad, always changed the subject. I went back to that birth certificate I found in my dad's garage. The name matched. I found old school records online. We'd gone to different elementary schools for a few years before she'd transferred to mine. And get this, her mum's name? Marissa. The same name I'd seen scribbled on a note in my dad's desk drawer when I was 12. I remember asking who it was, and he said it was a co-worker from a long time ago. It wasn't, it was his ex-wife, Maya's mom. And suddenly, every moment clicked. Every strange look my dad gave Maya. Every tight-lipped smile. Every time he left the room when she came over. He knew. Maybe not about her and Jake, but about her. He knew she was my sister, and he said nothing. I wasn't just betrayed by my best friend and my boyfriend. I was betrayed by my father. That was the moment I stopped crying. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about heartbreak. This was about exposing all of them. But as soon as I made the decision to expose them, I froze. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing I could jump, but suddenly questioning whether I really had wings. What if I was wrong? What if Maya didn't know we were sisters? What if Jake was just stupid, not cruel? What if my dad kept it a secret because he thought it would protect me? What if I destroyed everything and found out later I'd misunderstood it all? The weight of what if became unbearable. I spent the next few days in a haze, existing, but not really living. Going to work, nodding through conversations, lying to my mum's face when she asked if I was okay. Pretending things were fine, when inside I was coming apart thread by thread. I started questioning my own memory. Had Maya really been flirting? Had Jake's messages actually meant what I thought they did? Was I twisting everything through a lens of hurt? I reread the messages over and over until the words lost meaning. I zoomed in on Maya's smile in that photo with Jake so many times, I memorized every pixel. I even Googled how to know if you're overreacting in a relationship. That's how far gone I was. I felt like I was spiraling, not just emotionally, but morally. Like I was on the verge of making a choice that couldn't be undone, and I didn't fully trust myself to be the person making it. What made it worse was how normal everyone acted. Jake still kissed me goodbye every morning. Maya still sent me TikToks like nothing was wrong. And my dad had the audacity to invite me to lunch one afternoon and talk about yard renovations, as if the manila envelope I found in the garage didn't contain the biggest secret of my life. I felt like I was in some twisted alternate reality. Like everyone else had read the script, and I was the only one who didn't know my role. And yet, I didn't confront them, because something told me I wasn't done collecting truth yet. Somewhere in the pit of my stomach, I knew there was more. Something still hiding, something worse, and I was going to find it. It started with a mistake. My dad left his office door open. He never does that. He's obsessive about privacy, especially when it comes to his paperwork. But that day, he left in a rush, phone call in one hand, car keys in the other, and the door didn't latch behind him. I don't know what drew me in. Maybe curiosity, maybe spite, maybe I just needed something real to hold on to. But I stepped inside. His desk drawer was unlocked. Top left, under some receipts and warranty papers, was an envelope. Inside were a few old photos, one of a much younger version of him, holding a baby. A woman stood beside him. She had dark hair, a tired smile, and eyes that looked almost exactly like Maya's. And there it was again, that name, Marissa. Taped to the back of one photo was a yellowed sticky note that read, Maya's tuition, fall semester, Sent $6,000, no contact, per agreement. I felt my hands start to go numb. My dad had been paying Maya's mom, paying for school, but pretending she didn't exist. No contact, per agreement. I waited until dinner that night. I needed to see his face. We sat in awkward silence for most of the meal. My mum talked about a movie she'd seen, but I didn't hear a word of it. I watched my dad, the way he held his fork, how he chewed, how he avoided looking at me too long. After she left the table, I asked him, "Who is Maya to you?" His hand paused midair, just for a second. Then he smiled. That fake politician smile I've seen him use with neighbors. "She's your best friend, isn't she?" I leaned forward. "I found the birth certificate." That smile cracked, barely, but enough. He looked down at his plate, took a breath. "I never wanted you to find out like this." I waited, said nothing, let the silence do the pushing. "Yes," he said finally. "She's my daughter. From before. From before I met your mother. Her mum and I, we weren't good together. I tried to stay involved, but Marissa made it hard. We made an agreement. I'd support Maya financially. Quietly. No contact. That was the deal." "So you've known this whole time?" I asked. My voice didn't even sound like mine. "Not the whole time," he said. "I didn't realize who she was when you first became friends. Not until years later. But by then, you girls were so close. I didn't want to tear that apart." "Tear what apart?" "My life, my reality." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I asked the next question instead, the one that had been clawing at me since everything started unraveling. "Do you know she's been seeing Jake?" That did it. His eyes snapped up. "What?" "She's sleeping with him, Dad. My boyfriend, your daughter's boyfriend." He opened his mouth, closed it again, shook his head like he couldn't believe it. "Number that can't be right. She wouldn't." But she would, and she did. That night, I realized something terrifying. Even the people who claim to love you most will let you live in a lie. If it's easier for them. And maybe that's what this whole thing was. One big, quiet lie, layered in good intentions and sealed with silence. But I was done being kept in the dark. And they had no idea what was coming. I didn't plan it, not really. I thought I would. I thought I'd rehearse it in my head, wait for the perfect moment, come in cold and composed like some courtroom drama. But that's not how betrayal works. It eats at you slowly, until one day, it just pours out. And for me, that day came when Maya showed up at my apartment unannounced. She knocked like nothing had changed, like she hadn't ghosted me for days, like she hadn't slept with my boyfriend and smiled in my face like a sister. I opened the door. My heart was thudding in my chest, loud and hot. She was holding an iced coffee. "I figured you'd be mad at me," she said with this nervous smile. "So, I brought peace offerings." She actually joked. I let her in, silent. My hands were shaking. She sat on the couch like it was any other afternoon. She didn't even seem fazed when I stood across from her, arms crossed, and said, "When were you going to tell me you were my sister?" Her face drained so fast it was like watching paint peel in real time. "I what?" "I found the birth certificate, the photos, the money trail. Dad confirmed it." Silence. Then, "You knew," I said. "You've known for a long time." And her eyes filled with tears, but not regret, fear. "I didn't know how to say it," she whispered. "I thought maybe he'd tell you, or that you'd figure it out eventually. I didn't want to ruin things." "You mean like sleeping with my boyfriend did?" That hit her. Her mouth opened, then closed again. Her eyes darted to the floor. "You weren't supposed to find out like that." "So you admit it?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. "That's when it happened," I snapped. Not violently, not physically, just emotionally. The dam broke. I laid it all out. Every message I found, every Uber receipt, every lie, every moment she made me feel like I was crazy for suspecting anything. I told her how Jake would come home smelling like her perfume, how she wore my necklace, how they talked about me like I was a joke. And she just sat there, barely saying a word. No apology, no denial. Just this weak, pitiful, teary look, like she was the one hurting. Finally, she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was just angry. At him, at you, at life. You had everything." That sentence gutted me. You had everything. She said it like it justified everything she did. Like being my secret sister gave her permission to steal my boyfriend and destroy my life. That's when I told her to get out. She started crying harder, tried to reach for my hand. I pulled away like her touch burned. You don't get to be the victim here, Maya. You don't get to cry in my living room and pretend this was a mistake. You knew who you were. You knew who I was. And you still chose this. She didn't argue. She just grabbed her iced coffee and left. And as soon as the door shut behind her, I collapsed to the floor and finally let myself sob. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I had officially lost my sister, my best friend, and my boyfriend, all in the same breath. And the worst part? None of them had ever truly been mine. The silence after she left was unbearable. It wasn't the kind of silence that comforts or calms you. It was the kind that presses down on you, thick and suffocating, like the air itself is mourning what just happened. I sat on the floor for what felt like hours, staring at nothing. My face was sticky with dried tears, my hands numb, my chest aching in that raw, hollow way that only comes when something permanent has been broken inside you. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't even move, just sat there. Eventually, the sun came up, and I felt the light hit my face. And for a split second, I thought, maybe this was a nightmare. Maybe I'll blink and everything will be fine again. But it wasn't. The betrayal felt radioactive. I could still feel it in my skin. Maya's lies, Jake's hands, my dad's silence. It was all clinging to me like smoke I couldn't wash off. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, horrifyingly alone. I thought about calling my mom, about telling her everything. But how do you explain this kind of chaos? Hey, so remember Maya, the girl I've loved like a sister since I was a kid? She is my sister. And also, she's been screwing my boyfriend. Oh, and Dad's known about all of it, kind of. It didn't feel like a phone call. It felt like a bomb. Instead, I shut down. I ghosted everyone. I turned my phone off, locked the apartment, and stayed in bed for 3 days straight. I didn't shower. I didn't check my emails. I ignored Jake's texts, which started off casual. Hey, where are you? Then got more panicked. Can we talk? Please don't do anything stupid. This isn't how it looks. Of course that was the line. This isn't how it looks. But it was. It was exactly how it looked. Worse, actually. He showed up at the door once. I didn't open it. Just listened as he knocked for 5 straight minutes, then stood there breathing heavily on the other side like a ghost, unsure what to do next. And Maya? She never texted, never called, never even apologized. Just disappeared. I wish I could say I felt powerful. That cutting them off gave me peace. But it didn't. It left this crater in my chest, like someone had carved out everything warm and safe and replaced it with dust. Because when the people you love betray you, it doesn't just hurt, it rearranges you. It rewires how you trust, how you think, how you breathe. I wasn't the same girl anymore. And I was starting to wonder if I ever really had been. I didn't mean to dig deeper. I thought I'd hit the bottom, that nothing else could surprise me. But pain has layers. A few days after I shut the world out, my mum called. I ignored it, like I had every other call. But she kept trying. Texts, voicemails. Eventually, one message caught my attention. Your dad and I need to talk. It's about Maya. My stomach dropped. Not because of the name. I was used to that sting by now. But because of who it came from. My mom. She wasn't supposed to know. I called her back, heart pounding. She answered on the first ring, voice low and trembling like she'd been crying. I went through your father's office, she said. He left for a golf trip. I found the photos, the payments, the emails. There was silence on the line, and then he never told me about her, about Maya. I didn't know, sweetheart. I swear to God, I didn't know. I sat on the edge of the bed, completely still. You didn't know. He had a daughter before me. I knew he'd been married. He told me it ended badly, that she moved away and cut off contact. But he swore there was no child. He lied. My head started spinning, because that meant everything I thought he had done quietly, he had actually done secretly, even from her, even from the woman he married, the woman he built a second life with. He hadn't just betrayed me, he'd betrayed both of us. And then she said the one thing I wasn't prepared for. I think Maya's mom was blackmailing him. I blinked. What? I found transfers going back years, not just tuition. There were lump sums, 10,000, 15, once even 25. Always labeled as consulting or private agreement, and the emails, they were vague, but she threatened to go public, to ruin everything he built. Suddenly, it all made sense. Why he was so distant about his past. Why he tensed up whenever Maya came around. Why he never told me, or anyone, the full truth. He wasn't just ashamed, he was hiding something. And Maya? Had she known? Was she part of it? Or just caught in the middle of her mom's manipulation? I didn't have those answers yet, but what I did have was rage, not just at Maya, not just at Jake, but at my father. Because he didn't just lie to me, he built an entire second life out of silence, and let me stumble into it like it was my mistake. And now, that silence was about to end. After that call with my mom, I hung up and sat in the dark for hours. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was the realization that everything I thought was solid in my life had been built on lies. Carefully managed, decades-long lies. From people who were supposed to love me, supposed to protect me. I felt like I didn't exist. Like I was just this leftover thing. A footnote in a story that started before me and didn't care who it crushed along the way. I didn't answer texts. I didn't open the curtains. I ignored my mom's follow-ups, my friends' messages, even my boss's emails, until HR called and told me I needed to take a formal leave or risk termination. I chose the leave. I couldn't pretend to be okay, not anymore. Jake tried again too, sent long texts filled with classic garbage. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. You were pulling away. I didn't know she was your sister. I didn't respond, not once. But reading those words made me realize how deep the damage went. Not just because of what they did, but because they actually believed their excuses made it better. They didn't. In some ways, it made it worse. Because while I was bleeding silently in the background, these two were living, going on dates, laughing, touching, building something on top of the ashes of what used to be my life. And Maya, still no word. That silence hurt more than any message could. Not even a fake apology, not even a cowardly explanation, nothing. That was when I stopped sleeping. The nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The moment I first introduced Maya to Jake, the time we all shared a bottle of wine on my birthday, and they laughed at a joke I didn't hear. That blurry photo of them smiling in low light while I sat home waiting for a text. I started wondering if I'd ever been happy, or if I'd just been naive. I felt disgusting, violated, unwanted, like my own life had happened to me while I was too blind to see it. And the worst thought? Maybe I deserved it. That's what betrayal does to you. It rewrites your self-worth. It infects your memory. It makes you question whether you're the broken one. And in that hollow space, between rage and grief, I started to disappear. But somewhere, buried under all that wreckage, something else was forming. Not hope, not yet, just resolve. They thought they'd broken me, but they had no idea what I was becoming. The day I started to feel again, it wasn't peace, it was clarity. Cold, focused, sharp like glass. I remember standing in the shower, letting the water scald my skin and thinking, no one is coming to save you. Not your mom, not your friends, not therapy, not time. If I wanted closure, I'd have to carve it out myself. So I got to work. The first thing I did was print everything. Every screenshot, every message, every bank transfer I found from my dad to Maya's mom. I labeled them, highlighted key phrases, organized them by date. I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was documenting every betrayal, every lie, every insult they buried beneath fake smiles. I dug deeper into Maya's life too. Old emails, group chats. I even went through photos from the past few years, noting when she suddenly got a new job, or won a scholarship, or moved into a nicer apartment. All suspiciously timed with the large sums my dad was sending out. I wasn't just exposing an affair. I was unraveling a web of secrets that went back years. But I didn't want revenge that would make me look petty. I wanted something that would sting. Something they couldn't spin into a misunderstanding or sweep under the rug. So I started planning. First, I called a family friend, someone close to my mum, someone who hated my dad's smug, secretive energy. but always kept quiet out of respect. I gave her a taste of the truth. She was shocked, disgusted, and ready to help. Then I reached out to Jake's ex, a woman I barely knew but remembered from before me. I'd always wondered why they ended. She told me bluntly, because he cheated, with a mutual friend, gaslit me for months. You too, huh? I wasn't surprised, just furious at myself for not seeing the pattern sooner. I took all of it, every piece of information, every scrap of betrayal, and built a timeline, a bulletproof, inarguable, documented truth, something that no one could deny once it was laid bare. Then I picked the date, a family dinner, one of those just us nights my mum loved to host, where everyone sat around the table pretending life was perfect, even though it never was. I RSP'd with a smile, told everyone I'd be bringing something special, and I wasn't just going to confront them. I was going to make sure the mask never fit again. They wanted to play games in the dark. I was going to light the whole damn house up. The night of the dinner, I walked in calm, not numb, not broken, ready. The kind of ready that comes when you've already burned the part of you that needed their approval. I wore black, no makeup, just my face, raw, clear, and unreadable. Everyone was already there. My dad smiled when he saw me, like everything was fine. My mom looked tense, like she knew something was coming but couldn't name it. Jake sat at the far end of the table next to my dad, which used to feel like a warm, full circle kind of thing. Now it made my skin crawl. And Maya sat beside my mother, laughing, like she hadn't detonated my entire life and vanished into silence. She barely looked at me, just gave a tight smile and said, "I wasn't sure you'd show. Oh, I wouldn't miss this for anything." We all sat, small talk, wine, forks clinking, the usual script. It was disgusting. So I cut the scene. I stood up halfway through the meal, pulled out a manila folder from my bag, and placed it on the table. I brought something for everyone. They all looked up. Since we're pretending everything's normal, I thought we could use a little truth. My dad stiffened. Jake set his fork down slowly. Maya blinked like a deer caught in headlights. I opened the folder and started passing out papers, like a teacher handing back test results. Page 1. Proof that Jake and Maya have been sleeping together. Dates, times, screenshots. Jake whispered my name like a warning. I ignored him. Page 2. The birth certificate. Maya, you're my half-sister. Surprise. My mom gasped. My dad put his head in his hands. Page 3. Financial records. Payments to Maya's mom over the last 15 years. Some labeled tuition, most labeled hush money. I looked straight at my mother. He lied to both of us. She didn't speak. She just stared at the paper in her hands like it had physically wounded her. Page 4. A list of friends, family, and colleagues I'll be sending this information to. Not out of spite, just transparency. Jake stood up. "What the hell are you trying to do?" "What you did," I said, steady, just without the lies. Maya started crying. Big, theatrical sobs like she'd rehearsed them. "This isn't fair. You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I said. "You wanted what I had, so you took it, and now you can keep it, both of you. But don't pretend you didn't know what you were doing." I turned to my dad. "And you? You let this happen. You let your own daughters grow up side by side like strangers. You let me love someone who was lying to me while you kept your mouth shut. All for peace?" He looked older than I'd ever seen him. Small, diminished, and silent. I picked up my bag, left the remaining copies on the table, and walked to the door. Before I left, I turned one last time. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. You don't get to rewrite what happened just because it's uncomfortable now. And I walked out. I didn't cry, I didn't shake, because for the first time in my life, they were the ones left with the silence. The fallout was instant. By the next morning, my phone was flooded. Missed calls, angry texts, pleas, denials, threats, apologies that weren't really apologies. My dad tried calling 5 times before finally texting, "We need to talk, privately. You went too far." Too far? I laughed out loud at that one. Jake sent a string of messages. Classic narcissist nonsense. "You humiliated me. You should have come to me first. We could have fixed this." There was no we anymore. I blocked him. Maya, surprisingly, said nothing. Not a word. Maybe she was too ashamed. Or maybe she thought I'd forgive her again if she stayed quiet long enough. She was wrong. But the real shock came from my mom. She left my dad, not after weeks, immediately. Packed a suitcase that night and went to stay with her sister. She called me the next morning and said, through tears, "I can't believe I spent my life defending him. I can't believe what he let happen to you, to us." She wasn't angry at me. She was angry at herself and at him. For decades of half-truths and carefully orchestrated lies. She filed for divorce a week later. My dad lost more than just a marriage. Turns out one of the people I forwarded the documents to, my godfather, sat on the board at the company where my dad held an executive role. A company with strict moral clauses in their contracts. When word of the financial transfers and long-term deception reached the right ears, they let him go. Early retirement, they called it. But I knew better. Maya's social circle imploded too. I didn't say a word publicly, but people talk, and screenshots travel fast. I got messages from mutual friends like, "I had no idea she was like that. Are you okay? That's insane. She always gave off weird vibes with Jake, but I thought I was imagining it." Funny how people start telling the truth after you show them yours. Jake tried to do damage control. Posted vague Instagram stories about privacy, mental health, and learning to forgive. I almost choked on my coffee. Forgive? He didn't want forgiveness. He wanted image repair. Too late. I was done being quiet. And here's the thing about speaking up after betrayal. You expect it to be cathartic. You expect to feel power, peace. But mostly you feel free. I didn't care about their reputations. I didn't care if they cried. I didn't care if they told people I was crazy. Because they could spin it however they wanted. The receipts didn't lie. And when the dust finally settled, I didn't miss them. I didn't miss him. And I sure as hell didn't miss the girl who had the nerve to look me in the eye every day and pretend she loved me like a sister, while knowing full well she was. It's strange what you mourn after betrayal. It's not just the people. It's not just the relationship or the friendship or even the family that should have been. What you really grieve is the version of yourself that existed before it all fell apart. The one who trusted. The one who believed in people. The one who thought love was simple and intentions were pure. That girl is gone, and I'm still learning how to live without her. For weeks after everything came out, I found myself walking around in this strange fog. Not sadness, not anger, just emptiness. Like my body still remembered what it felt like to love Maya, to feel safe with Jake, to believe my dad wasn't capable of secrets like this. But my mind knew better now. Every room I entered felt like a crime scene. I missed things that never really existed. Late night talks with Maya that felt sisterly. Kisses from Jake that felt safe. Smiles from my dad that felt earned. But those were illusions. Painted by people who knew the truth long before I did and chose silence anyway. Some nights, I'd wake up thinking I'd made a mistake. That I went too far. That I could have handled it more maturely. That maybe I burned everything down that could have been fixed. But then I'd remember that moment, sitting at the dinner table, watching their faces as the truth came crashing down around them. And I'd feel something unfamiliar. Not guilt, relief. Because I didn't just stand up for myself. I ripped off a mask that had been sewn onto our lives for years. And sure, I lost people, but I also lost the weight of carrying secrets that weren't mine. I lost the habit of shrinking myself to keep others comfortable. I lost the need to be the peacekeeper in a war I didn't start. In that loss, I found something better, me. The real me. The one who asks hard questions. The one who no longer begs for crumbs of love and calls it loyalty. The one who understands that healing isn't linear. It's messy, painful, sometimes lonely. But it's honest. And I've learned that sometimes closure isn't an apology. It's a door you close yourself, quietly, permanently. Because not everyone deserves a final conversation. Some people just deserve to watch the door close and never open again. It's been 5 months. I haven't spoken to Maya. I haven't seen Jake. And my father, he's just a name in my phone now. One I haven't tapped since the night I walked out of that dinner. Sometimes I still think about what I lost. But more often, I think about what I've learned. I've learned that betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people who know your softest parts and aim for them anyway. I've learned that silence, real, heavy silence, is more painful than screaming. That when someone lies to you every day with a smile, it doesn't just break your trust, it breaks something inside your sense of reality. I've learned that love, real love, doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't hide in shadows. It doesn't ask you to shrink, to wait, to forgive things you haven't even been told yet. But most of all, I've learned that I am not fragile. What they did could have destroyed me. Honestly, for a while, it did. But there's something about being shattered that forces you to rebuild deliberately. Brick by brick, boundary by boundary. No more giving people the benefit of the doubt when they've shown me who they are. No more shrinking for the sake of peace. No more calling pain growth just to avoid being alone. I've since moved out of the apartment, got a new job in a different city, therapy twice a week, long walks every morning, a lock on my door, and peace in my chest. I even started painting again, something I gave up years ago when Maya said I wasn't very good at it. I painted a scene last week, a window wide open, sun pouring in. And for the first time, I didn't cry while I worked, because I've stopped asking why they did what they did. I've stopped asking how they could. And I've started asking something better. What do I do with the strength they never expected me to have? The answer? I live louder, clearer, braver. Because they tried to bury me in silence, and all they did was make me listen to my own voice. And now, I trust her more than I ever trusted any of them.